ain't a shepherd and it ain't a child. They're mixed. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You don't know what they are. We used to call them on the street mutts. But I'm talking about when you go to the right place and they'll show you the papers. They say, this is an authentic, this is the pedigree, and this is a German Spitz, or this is a Labrador Retriever, not mixed with anything. It's authentic. Or, you know what I'm talking about? You know the difference between cubic zirconium and a diamond, don't you? Yeah, there's some authenticity that comes with the diamond. The cubic zirconium, it just looks good, but okay, I gotta preach. I guess I gotta preach. It just looks good, but listen, I told my son when he came home with this big old thing around his neck that had all of these fake diamonds in it. I said, boy, I said, folk will kill you over a fake diamond as quick as they will over a real diamond. Now, if you're gonna put yourself in harm's way, you may as well have something that's worth something. There ain't no need of you coming up with a big old diamond on your finger and it ain't worth a dime, and then somebody cut your hand off for some fake. Come on, talk to me, am I right? So what I'm trying to say is that Paul says, I'm not a fake. Paul says, I'm not cubic zirconium. I'm diamond. I'm the best. I'm pure. He said, I'm somebody special. And let me just share with you, my sisters and brothers, if you don't think you're somebody special, nobody else will. But you need to know as a child of God that you're special. Turn to somebody and say, I'm special. I ain't talking about the little bitty yellow bus either. I'm talking about somebody special. I'm talking somebody. Listen, I don't know about you, but I ain't just another man. I'm a man that has the Holy Spirit dwelling in me. So there's a supernatural power that's at work. Lord, help me here. There's a supernatural power that's at work within me, and it doesn't matter. If you don't like me, you can't stop me when the Holy Spirit is working in me. Nothing can deter me or keep me off course when the Holy Spirit has taken control of my life. Is there anybody up in here? You know what I'm talking about. Paul says, I'm special. Paul says, I've been chosen of God. He said, I met him on the Damascus Road. I had a personal experience with him. How many of you had a personal experience with him? I'm talking about a real personal experience. I gotta do it. I've had a personal. I met him on my Damascus Road. Well, that's when I met him face to face. Paul said that I had my eyes open and I thought I could see, but then he blinded me so I could really see what I was missing. And I think you ought to understand that too many of us think we know him, but we don't know him. We just know of him. But listen, when you meet him for yourself and he drops you off your high horse and puts you down flat on your back, well, the only way you can look is up. You'll get to know him here. Blind you, God. Too many people think they know and don't know. But listen, he has to blind us in order to make us to see. You got your sight, but you're dead and blind spiritually. But he wants you to understand that your sight doesn't make sense. It's the faith that will move you into a right relationship. Paul says, I met him for myself, and ever since I met him, he changed my name. I went from Saul to Paul. But not only did he change my name, he changed my nature. I don't do the stuff I used to do. I used to persecute the church. I used to think that I was standing up for Judaism and that Christianity or the movement of Christ was in opposition. But I come to find out that the Christ of the New Testament is actually the real purpose of the Old Testament. Can I preach this, y'all? So he said, I got to know him for myself. And since I've got to know him, I want to know him more. Oh, yeah, I got to preach this today. So what Paul says in chapter 3, when he gets there, he said, listen, I'm somebody special. I'm of the highest pedigree. He said, I am authentic. He said, but listen, my authenticity does not overshadow my acknowledgement of who God is in my life. Okay, it's in the text. That's why I get to the points that I've been dealing with. He said it's a purposeful pursuit. He said first it's a passionate pursuit, then it's a purposeful pursuit. But today I want to talk about a progressive pursuit. Can I just do that? Because what Paul says, I ain't going to be long today because y'all, I ain't going to kill myself, but I sure feel like preaching today. What Paul says in the text is that I want to get to know him for myself. In verse 7, he said the stuff that I thought made me somebody was stuff that I had to let loose of. I had to give it up. He said, but that Verse 7, but what things were gained to me, those I counted lost for Christ. He said, look, I was willing to give up everything. He said, I was willing to give up the stuff that I've accumulated. He said, I was willing to give up the stuff that I have accommodated. He said, I really willing to give up the stuff that made me look like I was somebody. You see, he said, because I didn't want that to interfere with my relationship with him. He said, I have an impressive resume. When you read verses 5, 6, and 7, he said, I had an impressive resume. And then he says, in that, my religion was top of the line. So my resume and my religion, he said, I did not want it to take place of a relationship with Jesus Christ, because my religion is my creed. And I want you to understand something, my sisters and brothers. You can have a religion but not have a relationship with Jesus Christ, and you can bust hell wide open. But listen, you've got to understand that you need a relationship with Jesus Christ, because Christianity is about relationship. It's about having a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. That's what Paul said. Paul says, first, I had a personal experience. Not only did I have a personal experience that I am identified with him, he said, but not only that, he said, look, he said, it was a painful experience. He said, because I've had to suffer some stuff. The word suffer in the text has to do with affliction. It has to do with going through. See, some people are prosecuted, but others of us are persecuted. You're prosecuted for what you did. You're persecuted because of who you are. Can I get a witness? There's some people who are prosecuted because they did the wrong thing. But listen, when it comes to the church, when you're persecuted, it's because you're doing what's right. Because listen, everybody doesn't care about you coming to church. Everybody doesn't care that you're saved. Everybody doesn't care that you have a relationship with Jesus Christ. There are some people who will persecute you simply because you are. Don't you let nobody fool you. Going to church doesn't mean anything. It's about your relationship with Jesus Christ. When you have a personal commitment to the Christ, you'll find yourself in somebody's church. If you have a personal commitment to Christ, you'll find yourself engaged in his cause, and then you'll find out that you're working out in the church. Can I y'all give me about 5 more minutes? Yeah, what Paul says is that I've been there. He said, I've got the relationship with him. It's a personal experience. It's a painful experience, because listen, how many of us in our right mind are willing to suffer? You don't believe it? Peter walked with Jesus for 3.5 years. And then what happened was, Jesus said to him, I got to go to Calvary. He says, I'll go with you, I'll die. He said, Peter, he said, you don't overestimate your ability to follow. He said, because you're going to deny me before the cock crows 3 times. And you know what I found out? When the cock started crowing, Peter was lying. Peter said, I don't know him. I ain't associated with him. I don't want to be identified with him. Can I preach this, y'all? And you know what? I found out there are many of us who don't want to be identified with him. Yes, we go to church, but we don't practice the character. But what Paul says is that I want to exhibit his example. He says, I want to experience his essence. He said, I want to be just like him. It's in the text. He said, I want to be like him. He said that I may know him and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his. He said, I may know him. And that's intimacy. Say with me, intimacy. The know in the text has to deal with the intimate relationship. Not what I heard, but what I know. You remember Thomas, don't you? Thomas didn't show up after Jesus had been resurrected. Jesus had showed up with his disciples, and Thomas wasn't there. And then Jesus convinced them that he was who he is, and everybody afterwards said, Thomas, you should have been there. Jesus showed up. He had the marks. He had all. And Thomas said, look, I'm not trying to deny whether or not it's authentic that you saw him, but he says, I won't believe except I see it for myself, except I put my hands on. And sometimes, y'all, you ought to stop taking secondhand information, and you need to get to know him for yourself. Yeah, mama used to say every tub got a set on his own bottom. Sometimes, y'all, the testimonies of other people are good, but you ought to have a testimony for yourself. What has he brought you through? Have you touched him? Have you seen him? Have you met him? I'm going to preach this today. Have you met him? Do you know him for yourself? Does he come into your business? Does he handle your business? Is he your Lord? Is he your your master, does he tell you what to do? Do you follow what he said? Do you hear him talking to you? Can you hear me now? Yes, Lord, I can hear you now. Will you say, yes, yes, I commit myself to you? You've got to have a testimony for you. I know I'm preaching this today. I'm preaching to me today. I've got to tell him every now and then, God, I'm glad I know you through Jesus Christ.